Good morning, Wessendorf Band, or good afternoon, or good evening, or whatever time it is where you're doing your work. So today we're kind of going over a review of all the music theory stuff that we've done. So we need to make sure that we're comfortable reading the music before we're playing the music. So right now, uh, go ahead and pause the video if you didn't do any of last week's assignments. All right, the 6 weeks grading period is over, but if you didn't do last week's assignments that show us how you assemble your mouthpiece, how you put your mouthpiece on your face, and then how you make your first sounds last Friday, we can't give you feedback on whether you're doing that right or wrong. So right now we're kind of pausing a little bit of what we've done to check everybody's setup. So especially last Thursday, our first sounds video, if you haven't done that, do it right away. So we can check you, make sure it's going okay, give you feedback to correct it so we can continue playing. And it's also really important that you do today's assignment because you're going to get feedback on every aspect of reading music so we can play music. So right now we're going to go ahead and switch over and look at the sheet of paper that I have, and we're going to go over some of our music theory rules. Okay, so you'll notice right here that I have my treble clef. That is for the students who are playing the flute, the oboe, the clarinet, the alto saxophone, the trumpet, and the French horn, and percussion students, although later percussion students will also learn bass clef. We also have our bass clef, and that's for everyone else. That's our bassoon player, that's our trombone, euphonium, and tuba players. All right, and we're going to go over the rules for the lines and spaces first. So as a reminder, if we do the lines for treble clef, we can spell the sentence. There's ants on my desk. We can spell the sentence every good boy does fine. And if we look at the beginning of each of those words, that tells us which line or space they're on. So this is for our lines. And remember, we count from the bottom going up. So we'd have E, G for good. On the third line, we'd have B for boy. We'd have D for dog. And we'd have F for, or does, and then F for fine. Every good boy does fine. For the bass clef, we have G, B, D, F, A. And we kind of shift that sentence around a little bit. Good boys do fine always. Good boys do fine always. And that's on the lines, line 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If we go back to the treble clef, trying to figure out the letters of in our spaces, it just spells the word face, F-A-C-E, face. Now if we go over to the bass clef, we can use the sentence all cows eat grass. A, C, E, G. Now, if you also recall from one of our earlier videos, if you combine the lines and spaces together, you end up just getting it going forward in the musical alphabet. E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. Same thing here, you're starting on G on the bottom line, then A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Now if you were to go up to the next note, and do the note right there above the staff in bass clef, that would be a B, because we're just going up the musical alphabet. If we go to the next one, that would be a C. Same thing, going to the next note above the staff in treble clef would be a G. And if you're going down below the staff, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So if we're going to go backwards, we're going to go a note lower, and then an E, you would just go backwards. That's a D. Cool. If we're going to go lower than a G, I'm going to figure out what note this is. We'll just go backwards in the musical alphabet. F. Cool. So I'm going to turn the page over and talk about some of our rhythm things we've been talking about. Now these rhythms, we can just go ahead and do it here. We've been talking generically about the rhythms that are in the in 4/4 time. So I'm going to go ahead and write at the beginning of this line a 4/4 time signature. We're going to need to remember how to count them. So we've talked about how in 4/4 time a quarter note gets one beat. So it gets one number. It might be the number 1, the number 2, the number 3, and the number 4, but it gets one beat. So does a quarter rest. They both get one beat of either sound or silence. Okay? A half note is twice as big as that. A half note or a half rest, they get 2 beats. Therefore, 2 numbers. And we've also said that a whole rest or a whole note gets 4 beats. On today's assignment, you're both going to be filling out some letters of what different notes are, and we're also going to be writing in some counting. So one of our examples we've used in the past is 4 quarter notes. Now, please note, it doesn't matter whether the stem is facing up or down. It's the exact same. Remember that if we had 4 quarter notes in a row, we would just write underneath it a big 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4. And if we had 4 quarter rests in a row, we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, just like before. But also, because they're rests, we would put each of those beats in parentheses. So an example of a measure that has different combinations. Let's say I do quarter note, quarter rest, quarter rest, quarter note. There's still going to be 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. But those 2 in the middle would be silent. So we're only going to play on beats 1 and 4. All right. Similarly with our half notes, the half note is going to get 2 numbers, but we need to write it in a way that we understand what is happening, that it's not just 2 quarter notes. So this first half note, we're going to give it 2 numbers, so we're going to write the first number big, and the second number for beat number 2, we're going to write it small right above it. So we write big 1, little 2, big 3, little 4, and at that point we've used all 4 beats. Same thing with the half rest. If we had 2 half rests, big 1, little 2, but the entire thing in parentheses. Big 3, little 4, but the entire thing in parentheses. Some example of that being kind of mixed together. Here's a half rest, followed by a half note. So we would have big 1, little 2 in parentheses. You cannot forget that. Big 3, little 4. And then moving on, because I think today's assignment might have 1 or 2 of these, if we had a whole note, we know that it's 4 beats. So we'll do it the exact same way. It's a big number when you start the note, and for any other beats that are occurring throughout the note that are sustained through the note, we would write them small. So it would be little 2, little 3, little 4, and that's the end of the measure. And you can guess what we would do if it's a whole rest. Big 1, little 2, little 3, little 4, but in parentheses. So for today's assignment, you are going to do the ones that apply to you. So skip the treble clef lines if you're a bass clef player. Skip the bass clef lines if you're a treble clef player. You're going to fill in the letters and the spaces below, and then you're going to write the counting in below in the rhythm lines. Good luck, everybody. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me through the messenger or email me at jamescook@lcisd.org.